I grew up on an old cattle farm, tucked deep into rural Missouri, the kind of place where your days were measured by sunrise and sunset, not clocks. From the time I could walk, I helped my parents mend fences, feed cattle, and haul water across those 400 acres. My father, Charles, and my mother, Grace, built that farm with their own hands, turning raw land into a life. Even after I moved to a nearby town for work, they refused to slow down. In their 60s, they still ran the place like they always had, capable and proud. I visited nearly every weekend, but one Saturday in September of 1993, the moment I turned into the long dirt driveway, I knew something was wrong. The front gate stood wide open. My father never left that gate open, ever. Not even for a minute. He believed an open gate invited trouble, cows wandering, strangers entering, things going wrong. I parked and stepped out, calling their names as I walked toward the house. No answer. Inside, the kitchen looked frozen in time. Grocery bags sat on the counter. Milk had been taken out and left to warm. Bread lay half unwrapped. It was as if they'd walked out mid-task, expecting to be back in minutes. I moved through every room, my voice growing louder, sharper. Still nothing. Their bedroom was neatly made. Tools hung where they always did in the barn, but their truck was gone. At first, I told myself they'd gone into town for something quick. I waited an hour. Then two. By early evening, the silence pressed in, too hard to ignore. I called my sister Mary, who lived a couple of hours away. She answered immediately, worry already in her voice. "John, have you heard from Mom and Dad today?" I told her about the open gate. She went quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Mom called me yesterday afternoon. She said she heard gunshots outside. Thought it was Dad shooting at a snake or something." Then she hung up fast, said she had to go check. Gunshots. Our farm sat miles from the nearest neighbor. Gunfire out there meant one thing. Something wasn't right. I went out to the back pasture and counted the cattle. We usually had around 50 head. I counted 40. 10 were missing. I walked the fence line expecting to find a break or a damaged gate. There was nothing. No tracks, no disturbance. It was as if the cows and my parents had simply vanished. That night, I stayed in the house. I barely slept. Around midnight, I heard a distant engine, low and rumbling, then fading into nothing. I grabbed the shotgun and stepped onto the porch, scanning the darkness. The land stayed silent. Mary arrived the next morning. Together, we searched everything again. That's when we noticed her purse on the table, money still inside, and the VCR was gone. Who steals a VCR and leaves cash? We called the sheriff. Deputy Armstrong came out. He knew our family. He tried to reassure us, suggested maybe they'd had car trouble after the recent storm, but we both knew better. Days passed, then weeks, more cattle disappeared. 5 one night, no signs, no broken fences. I moved back onto the farm full-time, sleeping lightly, patrolling at odd hours. One evening, I found deep scratches on the barn door, fresh, deliberate. Boot prints led into the woods, then stopped suddenly, like whoever made them knew exactly when to turn back. Mary mentioned rustlers hitting farms north of us, but this felt different, personal. Then old Mr. Harlan from down the road stopped by. He'd lost cattle too. No blood, no bones, just gone. That was when fear turned into certainty. Someone was watching the farm. I set simple wire traps. A few nights later, one snapped. No one there, just a dropped leather glove. In October, a hunter found my parents' truck burned out deep in the woods. No bodies, dark stains on the seats. Armstrong told us quietly, "This is homicide." Months later, police traced stolen farm items to a pawn shop. Our VCR led them to a local family, the Rosen. One of them broke under questioning and drew a map to a shallow grave. They found my parents wrapped in tarp, shot multiple times. The truth came out slowly and painfully. The Rossens had come to steal cattle. My parents heard them. The gunshots Mary remembered were real. A confrontation turned deadly. Afterward, they burned the truck, buried the bodies, and kept stealing cows, thinking the farm was abandoned. William and his son were sentenced to life. Years later, William was executed. The farm was eventually sold. I still drive past sometimes. It started with missing cattle. Then it took everything. I had worked the range at Sylvie's Valley Ranch for more than 10 years, riding fence lines, counting cattle, and moving herds across the endless, lonely stretches of eastern Oregon. Out there, silence was normal. You learned to read the land, the wind, the animals, because when something felt off, it usually was. Late one July morning, while checking the north pasture, I noticed a gap that didn't make sense. One of our best breeding bulls, number 407, was gone. He wasn't the kind of animal that wandered. I circled the fence twice. The wire was intact. No broken posts. No tracks leading out. I radioed the main house. "Colby, it's Dave. 407's missing from the north pasture. Fence looks clean." "No sign," he broke out. Colby Marshall, the VP who oversaw operations, came back sharp. "You sure? Check again. Bulls like that don't just disappear." I did nothing. By afternoon, a small crew was out, searching me, Jack, and Colby himself. We rode wide, scanning draws and gullies as the sun started to drop. That's when Jack called out, his voice tight. "Dave, over here?" I rode down into a shallow draw and saw it. The bull lay on his side, coat still, glossy red, like he'd been brushed that morning. But something was wrong, terribly wrong. His tongue was gone, cut clean out. His genitals too, removed with straight, precise edges. There was no blood, not a drop on the grass. No scavenger tracks. No buzzards overhead. Jack knelt beside the carcass, face pale. "This ain't animals," he said quietly. "This looks like surgery." Colby stared, jaw clenched. "Poachers, maybe, but why leave $6,000 of meat behind?" The vet couldn't explain it either. No bullets. No poison. No struggle. That night in the bunkhouse, sleep wouldn't come. The ranch covered over 140,000 acres, mostly empty, mostly wild. Anyone could hide out there. 2 days later, another bull vanished. Same pasture. We found him a mile away. Same condition. Tongue gone. Bloodless. Clean. Colby called the sheriff. Deputy Dan Jenkins showed up, notebook in hand. He studied the cuts, shaking his head. "Heard stories," he admitted. "Other ranches. Same thing. No tracks, no blood. Gives folks the creeps." Night watches started. Jack and I took the first shift, camping near the herd with rifles close. Around midnight, I heard a low hum like an engine far away. "Jack, listen." We followed the sound toward a ridge. It stopped suddenly. A faint light flickered in the trees, then vanished. We pushed on and found an old hunting shack, long abandoned. The door was open. Inside, the air smelled stale. Food cans, a sleeping bag, tools on a table, scalpels, syringes, and a jar inside it. A fresh bull's tongue. Footsteps snapped outside. Someone lunged from the dark, knocking my flashlight away. We grappled. He was wiry, strong, silent. Jack shouted. A shot cracked into the air. The man broke free and vanished into the night. By morning, the shack was empty. Everything gone. After that, the mutilations continued. Jack quit. I stayed. One evening, I followed fresh tire tracks to a hidden camp, 2 men by a fire, cleaning a blade. I barely escaped. We set a trap. Darts flew. Shadows ran. One bag left behind. Maps, syringes, knives. They were never caught. I left the ranch not long after. But even now, I wonder if they're still out there, hiding in places no one looks anymore. Because if they could do that to livestock, who's to say animals were all they were after?